Hi, welcome to Bonano TV this weekend. Today is May 20th, 2023. And we continue the discussion from yesterday that we held off for our viewers. And in this discussion, we are trying to summarize and analyze, first analyze and then summarize what we think are the most important things, the takeaways from the President Hakainde Hichilema's press conference that was hosted yesterday. And what we are looking at in this show is to understand the NDG's the NDG is for New Dawn Government, the NDG's agenda, and record their lifetime progress, how much of the progress we think they are making, and we analyze they think they are making. So in yesterday's show, we said we'll continue today at this same time. We summarized the main talking points into 12 Ds. And we spoke about defamation of the president, death penalty, debt resolution, delivery unit. And then we spoke a little bit about diplomacy focused on beneficial economic relationships and realizing investments. So we'll pick it up from there, and my friends will join me a little bit later. I just ask you to share this broadcast and with your friends and your family on the social media platforms that we're appearing, whether on YouTube right now and also on Facebook. And that's what we're going to do, is to finish the other 7 Ds that we didn't cover yesterday. My colleagues and I had a lot to say on the first 5, and we are going to finish off on the last 7 in this broadcast today. And share this broadcast. And then at this point, I want to just bring on the Professor Piquet Shala, who pleaded a case for his countrymen and a case for the common man to in their conditions of life to be looked at, and the government to be able to pay attention to the conditions of life for the common man in the Republic of Zambia. So I'm going to play this song whilst I'm waiting for you to share to more people and for my friends to join in. We are going to enjoy this piece of Kalindola called Common Man from Piketchala. Yes. Yeah.
It's hard to believe Mint's new family plan is
So
just
as you think
$15 a
about
month
this
per
song,
person. So
I
I've
want
asked
you
my
also to
wife,
think about
plan
the different things that we need to change in the economy. Yes. So, yeah. So here's Common Man for you.
Common man. Alabaneo ngejulisha sana kumsala. Ambie piyako. Chomwe buteko tule birombo kuzira mu kitepo kikokwena. Sala yake wacho. Yashe watu yala ni tule diunioni. Mano umfai kufena tule ishanya. Ikuta walibulete papa tumutengo wabunga na unina ukutila manifilo eyo nabambila mabomba tulekasha chikagula bomba tufile nokuya kwino inilile ishuma iwanyama ndoto mkanyo kubombesha abengi egarane nsala nchikwa ule nyawu nukundeleka amakulande ya shelo mamikote yesu abakulambala mulukoto amubashinguluka umashitolo kwa jipalikyo baleshika bambibanwa amayehu balelila n'amabanzi bamomataba ikikuna mutute balekubekane balala kabila okuyoluchelo akasubane shungulo Matulefilwa, munajua mitengo ya chakula na Hichilema. Tulishirikisha pia amachushi mufundo wa mano. Ayarenga, tuwewe matulondeleko kuli batata. Abuteko, matulondeleko lupia imikalile ya shuka. Hichilenga, tulefilwa no kusuma bado kaleso. Alangatishuka bali. Amwishyure icyaruka cyangwa iwanyu salama n'ibyo musebanye. Katuleikuta umwari buleke papa tumupengo wabunga naunina kukutila malimbibeli nabambita wabunga tulishirikisha pye amachushi mufundo wa mano ayarenga tukwele mayo tulopeleko kulila kaka abuteko tuleko lupia imikalile ya shuka Hichilema, tulefilwa no kusuma bado kaleso. Alamayo kambeni na bakata, mabuteko batubeleleko lise, kalunde pipi, batushileko ukunga kwebalana. Ukufala ukunwano kupepa, emulandu pichikuluku ya wino, antisala, kayachila moila neto musebanya. Alamayo kambeni na bakata, mabuteko batubeleleko lise, kalunde pipi, batushileko ukunga kwebalana. Ukufala ukunwano kupepa, emulandu pichikuluku ya wino, antisala, kayachila moila neto musebanya.
Hi, welcome back. And yeah, we have to have government policy that is helping with the welfare of the country. And that was Piketty-Shala's view and concept of the role of government in helping people. Yeah, so today we pick up from where we left yesterday. Yesterday, we did talk about what the president, in his view, he feels they are the achievements of the NDG, the New Dawn government. We spoke about the defamation of the president, death penalty, debt resolution, delivery unit, and a little bit about diplomacy focused on beneficial economic relationships and realizing investments. So we'll pick up from number 6. Number 6 here in the chat. My friends will join me shortly, but I can get started off. My father from Rome there is still in the background. So the number 6 point that we want to discuss and talk about is the direct investments from abroad. First of all, I want to be able to explicate this issue of foreign direct investments from abroad. This is direct investments from abroad. Direct investments from abroad are a very important component of a developing country. So basically what happens is that we have to invite these foreign capitalists to invest and mix their funds with our resources so we can boost the performance level of our economy and help people create jobs and things like that. So in the president's estimation from the press conference, this government endeavors to focus on increasing these foreign investments as a way to increase investments. Basically, countries like Zambia seek foreign investments because they don't have enough of their own resources to reinvest. So they have to use the resources of other people from abroad, and those investments are what they mix with their natural resources and other conditionalities in the country to be able to create jobs, for example, and improve, and even improve value chains, and be able to have more money in the country, basically. Yeah, so in the thinking of this government, it seems to me that they have banked heavily on the fact that other people's money mixed with our resources in the country is a very good way to move forward in the country. So they have been able to amass a lot of pledges. Now, what we hear from people who don't use textbooks or who don't use school to analyze issues is this. I have heard one opinion that says that foreign investments are all about the investors benefiting at the expense of the local people. That is not true. It depends how you structure that particular investment portfolio. For example, in my estimation, the way the investment portfolios were structured under the President Levi Mwanawasa, yes, they could be eligible or amenable to that criticism that we are only having other people come on our territory and appropriate the resources and externalize the income. That's one part of it. And the second part of it is that if you structure those properly, you can have a mutually beneficial relationship where you're not getting only jobs, but you're also getting equity in the particular investments that you are using with foreign capital. The downside, really, with foreign direct investment is that we are going to have the foreigners appropriate our resources to benefit themselves if we don't structure those agreements well. I've been quite a vocal proponent on these platforms that talk about the economics of Zambia to say that we probably need to pay careful attention to how the agreements with foreign investors are structured. Because some of the investors that we went and got, they took the benefits you offered. Oh, no, taxes the first 5 years. Then they come in the country, they trade, they get all the money. And before the 5 years expires, they sell off that investment to their cousin company in their country that comes in as a new investor, and they begin to take advantage of the country like that. And also the downside of that is where you take all the investments of the country and the money is going to be poured out. You just use that as points or leaking points in a bucket. Leaking points in a bucket. The leaking points in a bucket are that the investment portfolios you create in the country become the very points through which money is going to be taken out of the country and no money is left in the country. That is not what we're seeing here. What we're seeing here is the government trying to invite more participation of the foreign-owned firms or foreign investments in the country so that we can use that capital to be able to create jobs and create conditions in which people are able to thrive and survive in the global economy. So what we saw in the president's conference yesterday was to show us that most of what they have secured are pledges. And then they still have a job to make those pledges realizable in the economy, And that is at least what the president told us, that's what they're working on. So there is a big gap between the amount of pledges and the amount of money that has come in. Yeah, as an accountant, as a global accountant, I would also say that that is quite normal. You have to start with the pledges, and then those pledges you use them to realize the actual investments, the flow of money into the country. So if the country remains stable, the economy is being run in a manner that is prudent, people are going to become more and more comfortable to invest their money in the Republic of Zambia. So at least we know that that is the strategy of the government, and we have seen some of the results. The president touted the manufacturing of fertilizer and the other projects that we know are going on in the country. So direct investments from abroad are going to be a measurement stick for this government, because they've told us they have pledges almost $9 billion, almost $9 billion, and if those can be realized, then we are talking about a country and an economy that is going to be buoyant, and people are going to be able to get a job in their own country. We have not to forget that this government of ours has been around only for a little over a year, maybe a little less than 2 years. So we know from the accounting point of view that what happens is that people can invest in the country and people can bring their money, but the accounting part, the way from pledges to realizing the money, it will take a little bit of time. And I think that if there was a job that was needed, maybe that's what the delivery unit is about, is to make sure that those pledges are delivered to the people and the country, and then we can realize those investments. Otherwise, pledges in themselves are not good enough. Are not good enough. The seventh thing that we need to that we picked up from the president's conference um, is the distortion of um, the distortion of the cost of living by imported inflation. We picked up that the president spoke about this, and we need to also pick it and explicate it, and also give our view on this. So, seventh D is the distortion of the cost of living by imported inflation. So, what that means is that the cost of living in Zambia gets to be higher than the average incomes in the country, because we have goods that we've imported from abroad that are costing higher than they should because of the circumstances that are going on in the global economy. And on this one, we can mention things like uh, we can think about the price of fuel. The price of fuel. The OPEC countries decide that they're not going to produce more. They are going to make more money out of their oil, and they restrict supply. And in the advent of restricting supply, it means for you to access that commodity, you are going to pay a higher price for anything, for the fuel that you need to get for your country. Now, that higher price is internalized, it's brought down into the country. And then what happens is that because you are paying a higher price, everything that is going to be impacted by the use of fuel is going to be costing a little bit more. So we are talking about this as raising the cost of living due to just what is going on in the global economy. Yeah. So the president spoke about that, but the distortion of the local prices by imported inflation means that in the Republic of Zambia, people are going to pay a lot more for the goods that are being imported, or they are being sold, or have to depend on the cost of fuel. And this is where we can bring in the war in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine means that a huge chunk of fuel that could be available to the global economy is not available to the global economy because of the fights in Europe, the war in Europe, and in Europe, where the biggest country in Europe was decided to start taking territories. Uh, and the others are not happy about that. So hence we have these sanctions. So part of what we're going through in terms of the high cost of living in the Republic of Zambia is just simply the war that broke out in Europe. And those of you who are readers of history and understand what is going on in the world, you would see that when the villages in Europe start fighting against each other, it is always a world war because their economics are globally intertwined with the rest of the world, globally intertwined with the rest of the world. So, Third World War has started, but it doesn't started with bombs because people can't use bombs and we stay here. If people start using bombs, no one is going to be here. Yeah. So namubashikweteko salvation mupusukire erimo mwibike kuri Yesu Kristo because the world war has started. It has started on a money level. And now there are countries that are rising to say they are going to create their own financial bloc. And, we can say many things about BRICS, but Zambia should not rush to participate in that because the financial system of the world is usually created over many years. It's not just an instant point of frustration. We don't like the Americans, they are controlling us, therefore we're going to start our own currency. Let them do that. Because in dealing with money, there are a lot of scandals, there are a lot of fights, there are a lot of wars. So if you bring in that new standard, allow that standard to sink in. I think Zambia should join BRICS, but in 60 years, because the financial system has to be able to prove itself that it can function. Yeah, so I've seen a lot of other countries, particularly Middle Eastern countries, who just don't like Americans. They say, oh, we are going with BRICS, we're going with BRICS. How are you going to do that? You haven't calculated the financial risks. You haven't calculated the exchange rates. What is the basis on which you can do that? Let's wait until that thing works. If it is not something to rush at. So there is a distortion of the cost of living by imported inflation of prices of commodities from the global economy. So if you're saying kuli kuchula ku Zambia or kuli kuchita struggle, part of it tekuletera obuchushi and part of it tenkongolesha abalungu. Although all those may be factors, but the most important factor here is the distortion of the cost of living prices by imported inflation. And that in turn has been affecting the performance of the currency, the kwacha. Yeah. So the president made it very clear that this distortion of the cost of living and the prices in the cost of living is a significant problem for the country. So we have to think, how do we interact with the global economy in this way? I am not hearing any positions. I'm not hearing anything, solutions from the opposition because I'm a politics. I would say I'm ideas. Either mutundufye, Bemba speaking people, let's group together na bambia wesu, or whatever it is. But tabalepela ma solutions nanguyam. So we do need some thinking people, their group, to bring about this resolution to the issues. So ngamwamo nakamutengo nakakosako kutufintu and things like that. What is happening is that there is a distortion of the cost of living through imported inflation. So number eight, I want to talk about. We gathered from the president's press conference. We gathered from the president's press conference that they have made an effort on the intervention into the family budget support. So usually in Zambia, what we like is we are going to throw subsidies on a general issue like fuel. So we go and throw all the money on the gas. And then we think that if we subsidize gas, we're subsidizing every family. But clearly what we see from this president is they made a decision that they are going to go directly into the family's budget. They are going to go directly into the family's budget. So now what does a regular family spend money on? And how can the government invest into those families? How can the government give a subsidy that will directly affect each and every family? So the government decided that the best way to do this is to go and intervene into the family budget and bring subsidies at that point. And my hope and prayer is that they get to even do this a little bit more. But where they have started from is from the education standpoint, because education adjusts and changes the fortunes of every family, from poor families to rich families. So, what the government is trying to do here is to provide free education as a subsidy in the family budget, the intervention directly into the family budget. Don't put the money on the gas, put the money directly into the budget of the family, into the budget of the family, and then give free education. So if you give free education, the expenses that used to be spent on the education of the children is taken out from every family, and the government is paying for that. And that's where we also see the increases in student bursaries to government institutions and also the meal allowances at the University of Zambia. It is this concept of direct intervention into the family budget support. So government is supporting families by giving by giving um, subsidies to the families. Yeah. So I have a contribution here. I think it's a question um, from Mr. Piri here, Simon Piri. Hello, Doc. Apart from the high import cost, how is the high cost of import duty impacting the cost of living? Yes, in any country, when you are importing goods from elsewhere, you are going to charge duty for those goods. So that duty goes directly into the government coffers to support the financing system in the economy. So, I think that duty definitely raises the prices. Mr. Peary, duty raises the prices within the economy. The people are going to pay for those goods, the cost of those goods, the cost of transporting those goods into the country, plus the duty, and then plus the profit. So that always, as an import-based economy, is a condition we will always have. I remember as a young man, I used to fly into Southern California from Zambia to do some work in the ministry. And then always I would buy a few computers. And then when I go to sell them in Zambia, I would be charged duty on those. And then when I tried to sell them, they would cost like twice the price of the computers that were being sold here at Circuit City before it closed. Usually that's where I used to go and buy. And sometimes I would go to Best Buy. Best Buy is still in business. Yeah. So, yes, when you buy goods from abroad, Mr. Peary, you are going to have them more expensive unless you start manufacturing at home. Yeah. So, yeah. So that's what I can say about that. So the direct intervention into a family budget is through free education, student bursaries, and meal allowances. For this part, we only have had one complete fiscal year under this administration. And then we are going to have a second one, the fiscal year this year. So the president expressed that the way to support the families was to go the route of education. So they restored the meal allowances and they did that. That is according to what the president said. Number nine, the ninth D, the ninth D is drugs. Now, I have to say something that is very personal to me. When I left NIEX School of Business, I was studying with Zika. The first job I got after that was to go and work as an accounts assistant for Ndola Central Hospital. So I didn't know what management had done. A few of them had seen me on posters conducting youth night prayer meetings and stuff. So most people on management team, they knew I was a Christian. So I remember going to Ndola Central Hospital to work as an accounts assistant. But under the management accountant, they directly placed me in the stores, pharmacy stores. And the executive director in those days was Dr. Miti. And he said to me, I hope you can remember wherever he is, but he said to me, and I never forgot that, says, yes, we know you're an accountant, but the reason why we've brought you here is so that you can keep the medicine in the hospital. Your friends used to be here. They used to get away with the medicine. So just keep the medicine for us so that we can help the people. And I truly and wonderfully appreciated that role. I saved as a pharmacy storekeeper, and then I would report on the medicines and the drugs in to the accounting department. So, but the thing that interested me from what Dr. Miti said to me in those days, that's many moons ago, I think that was 1999 or somewhere there, was that, the people who used to work there, you know, used to take the medicines away there. And that medicine that was used to be in the hospital easily used to find itself in the pharmacies in the city. I am very sad that more than 20 years after the fact, the president of Zambia and his cabinet are still struggling with the same problem. You know, the president said that they have increased the budget for the Ministry of Health, and part of that is to procure the medicines for the many health institutions across the country. But it seems to me that the biggest problem in the Ministry of Health is pilferage. Ukuvovola omuti onokulashita mu pharmacies ali locally. That, but also particularly, is a law enforcement issue. But it's also about the character of the people we employ to manage the medicines. From what we gathered from the president's press conference, it seems to me that the president was decrying about pilferage. We as the people of Zambia must reach a point where we have to recognize that illegitimate money that is earned illegitimately, is a criminal activity. And we have to be able to enforce the law to help the people, to enforce the law to help the country. Yeah. So, ababatila bantu anika ne bamubanga nusiku balanda pona bena bakomenta po ati eya oh Dr. Mutale ati eya mkwai bapompwe vamiti. So abaletuteeka enfine mu patala ne bamukukulu bapompwe bamiti. Bapompwe bamiti. So, but we have to say that the business of governing the people must not be left to Bapompwe. Yeah, the president did allude to why they made changes in the police service. Bankambo bakaja babake bafumiapo, bakabikapo bakwabo. Part of it was related to the exporting of maize, and I knew and I thought that that was the correct move to try and just change the culture of the police, because if we are going to have the breakdown in the rule of law, then we cannot conduct business in a manner that helps anybody. So keep eyes open, Mwevena Zambia. Bapompwe bamuti, they are part of the big problem. They are part of the big problem in the health institutions. That's what the president told us. That was the president told us. And the number 10th issue here, I will throw it up. The number 10th issue that we picked up from the president's press conference, all of them are starting with the letter D in our summary. And this one is the digital platforms creating digital IDs and broadband internet access across the country. And the president indicated that they are in discussions with, they've moved from the discussions to the implementation phase, where Elon Musk's company are now testing internet accessibility in the Republic of Zambia. This is built to be able to improve the way we conduct commerce, the way we do business, the way we study. I think it's called Starlink or Starlet. I don't know what the company is, but it's a company by the wealthiest man in the world that provide internet access to places and peoples in different places. So I have some people here. Let me not venture into the monologue, but we have two more Ds left. Yeah. So the digital platforms, I have um, I have Father Pombo here, and I have Mr. Kasonso, the doctoral student from California. Mr. Kasonso, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Yeah, twa losaka bola basen.
Muchiri mulesopota vatsan imona vamuzeche mukalekefi.
We staying constant. We are staying constant. Tola oka yo. So we'll try again next season.
Yakuli ukuzotry next season. Next season, Kuriyama team Zombake Zamufini. How can you, as Ano, mwaikala pa top of the league for the entire season? Ero plus wasa mikupula.
Mkwai nangi nefona nguna kwa tefu monga fiesa luvana kunta nshkula watu mwana alusa.
We. Iyo ni mulera ndafuna mbani about one. Mulera chita about title. Or as my friends at Man City would say, Tata, they don't, when they win, because they use this a legion of foreign players who can't speak English. Some of them don't even say title. Some say title. Some of them say Tito. Say Tata. Kaveshwa neto wawini.
Kuka
Bafana
woku isuma mailo, kuka woku isuma pakusenda tate yo inde mailo.
vakale asefya na vatemwa vachina mashati na vafula but aveshwe neto wawini.
Tabeshi vecho wawini neyo.
Vambi wawini ne Tito. Vambi wawini ne Toto. Vambi wawini ne Tato.
Era na vunkungu mwali obo, awa mwandi.
Nawe kungu mwali vana vakwalesa mwe vatukira pamula vasa. Father Moisen.
Mkwai, mwa bombe doctor.
Ndita lero nachivafika tini pungwa ndepita pama D's neka. Matiri ari kuisa ese anja foi.
Nachirawo mkwai. Yo, inenshi kuishisha Saturday kushira wako busy. So hapana chisa vena chao. Let me fulfill my promise. At least 30 minutes I will be with you.
No, we are actually we will run maybe up to 18 minutes more, but
All right.
line up utuma points totwatanda papali fyarandeva akateka twatanda papali direct investments from abroad, distortion. Yeah, Joanna kale alipo Joanna ulishani Ensha.
I'm well, thank you. How's everybody?
Yeah, everybody.
Hello, good evening.
Hi.
Mule ukisha Joanna vapombo.
We said, kuyi okay?
Yeah, when you Joanna of South Africa, even never TV bakwetu.
Yeah, I remember. Yes, I remember. Yeah, but I confused her with where Dr. Barbara met me somewhere there
No,
in
don't
the
worry.
UK.
I'm going to get the doctorate soon. Don't worry.
Yeah, you see, apa number play nearby. Once ababa lipanisha once my doctoral students. So yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah. So what we are doing here, we are reviewing what the president spoke about in the press conference. And who would like to go first? Because in this show, which is a part two, we spoke about direct investments, distortion of prices and the cost of living due to imported inflation, direct intervention into the family budget through supporting education and subsidizing that component of the family budget. And then we spoke about the drugs. Dr. Mutare Bachirandati, abapupu wamiti. Yeah. Yeah. Also as having a negative effect on the policies of the government in the area of health. And despite the increase in the budget, the president replied that there is still a lot of future. And then we've spoken about digital platforms, increasing internet access and the impact. And right now, it's a delivery point for the president because they are testing how that implementation of the Elon Musk company is going to be able to do that. So, who would like to take a bite about those issues that we're discussing today, or what stood out for you from the president's press conference. Father, you have to go first.
Thank you very much. I think what's touched me about the press conference of the president is, with the figures, the president is very, very good, and quite well prepared, and unfortunately, Dr. Kasonso, when we hear that there is impatience from the people, the citizens, it's because the situation which the president himself knows was very bad for the ordinary Zambians. Apart from probably Dr. Kasonso, those people were the cadres and things like that who had some contracts, some businesses. But the majority of the Zambians, even in the previous government, they had a lot of challenges. Even if there's some people that would say that probably they would do some businesses here and there, but they had a lot of challenges. A few had some contracts and they really enjoyed themselves. That said, I'm trying to underline this. The program, the investment, attracting foreign investment, and also ordering the system, the local investment as well. We appreciate this, but people do not have that much patience because, according to me, the unemployment is just too high. So if there is a high unemployment, it means a lot of people are not working. Hence, each and everyone needs to have a piece of bread or a kawali, a panganda, but then there is no job. There's no job, and hence all those figures and statistics that the president portrayed to the nation, which are very, very positive. But then the people have not that patience to wait because they are hungry. That's why I see that the attention from the Zambian people after that press conference, beautiful things indeed. But then the people, they need to survive every day. The unemployment is just too high. So that said, I'll bring you back in the past, Dr. Kasonso, when changing the government, the president said, well, I acknowledge the high unemployment in the youth. Hence, the president called the youth, please. I think the solution, the immediate solution was going to propose to the youth to form the so-called cooperatives. I hope you remember this. Mm-hmm. It was like a promise. How can we curb the high unemployment? So the president and the New Dawn government, they said, well, okay, I think the immediate solution might be to help the youth do something, not singly, but as a group. Hence, the idea of asking them to form the cooperatives. Now, even that proposal up to now, even if Dr. Kasonso, you've seen, there's been a change from 1.5 to 25.8, 1.5 to 25.8, where now the question is this being seen in the constituencies? That's where the problem comes in. And then that's where the youth they don't have patience at the moment. They feel said there's a breakdown there. 25.8 is a lot of money. 25 million in the constituencies as CDF. It's a lot of money. But now, who is beneficiarying in those? Apart from what you have said, Dr. Kasonso, bursaries, free education, but then from the comparison, if they compare PF 1.6, UPND 25.7, and on 25.8, but then the difference, and these creates well, it's really hindering in the youth, and hence they're looking and with impatience, and they don't know what to expect at the moment. Yeah.
So what you're talking about is, yes, we are good with the government measurements that the 25 million kwacha that is being imposed or being disbursed in the constituency is having an impact. But that's where I have to probably speak for the government as a global accountant.
Yes.
When we expend money or working capital, we at least look to a period of 12 months.
Yes.
But in financial accounting, usually we take a period of 3 years to assess an impact of a financial investment in working capital. Yeah, in working capital. So, yes, it remains to be seen if there is progress that is the government is expressing to us. We can pick political stories that no, well, we have is now the desks are not being imported, the desks are being manufactured, the students are in school. That is from the point of view of activity. But we also have to look at the financials. Have those investments in community had a return that is commensurate or that is acceptable to the local populations? Yeah. So, yeah. And then let's also move on further here. Joanna is still in the background. Let's take a look at the number 11th issue. You will go first, Father, but let me try and explicate this issue first.
Yes.
The 11th D in this that was spotted from the President's press conference is the distribution of agriculture inputs on time this year. So let's go back, first of all, a year ago. What happened? What happened in the distribution of agriculture inputs? Agriculture inputs, we are talking about seed and fertilizer. Yes, last year it was very messy, and they tried to contract, and some people even started predicting that there will be a famine this year because there will not be enough corn or enough harvest to feed the country. And then come fast forward to this year, the president offers that the people who are going to grow the maize or who are going to grow all the crops that we use for food in the country, they can be assured that this particular year, government has taken steps to go ahead and secure this distribution of farming imports. Particularly, they have even supported the local production of fertilizer in terms of an actual company created. So, yeah, so clearly we can see that we had a problem with maize in the country. We had a problem with maize in the country, and this maize problem that we had in the country was exacerbated by illegal exporting of the maize, illegal exporting of the maize. So they are related, the distribution of agricultural inputs and how we use the commodities that are available. What do you think about this issue that the president spoke about during his press conference?
I think it's also a good idea. I thought it was good, especially that the fertilizer is going to be produced locally. That one is it's quite kudos to the president, and I think it will lessen and it will reduce the costs. Importation really is one of those spheres which damages our economy. So producing locally, it's going to boost, of course, the farmers themselves, the time, the punctuality in distributing these products to the farmers in time, and the The president this year has already assured we are beginning on time. People will have seed on time. People will have fertilizer on time, which is positive. I think he is also showing the country that he listens. The mistakes that they have made at the beginning of this year or last year, end of last year, I think this year they have already corrected the trend, and we are starting in time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just commenting on the listening part, I think we should also recognize that every time there has come a problem on the country, you see the president with his executive style go ahead and curb the problem, call the people and solve the problem. So we can comfortably say their posture towards solving the national problems has been very good. We had a problem with load shedding come from nowhere. They sat together, they fixed it.
Yeah.
We had a problem of mealie meal being exported illegally and creating artificial shortages and raising the prices of mealie meal across the country. They sat on it. That issue is not there. So we have at least the signs of a working government. It's a young government. It's just a little over a year. And clearly, when the problems arise, they they work hard to nip it in the bud. So we are thankful for that, and we appreciate that kind of approach to governing. Yeah, you can continue, Father.
Yes, we do. We do. It's something positive that I've seen in this new Newton government. They listen. They are listening, and they are coming back to the people to answer to the worries or to the request. If it's something very serious has happened, the government is finding time to come and listen to the people. I don't know myself. I've always said that probably the situation in the working service and in all different spheres in the government, I think I call it contamination. There was quite a high level of contamination. Talk of the problem at Ministry of Health, talk of the police, professionality, everywhere, teaching service, Dr. Kasons, teaching service.
Yeah.
People who take advantage of the government, and instead of helping the government, they use different systems to benefit from the government. And so that everyone now will just point fingers to the president or to the government at large. So there is a lot of job that this government is supposed to do to change the mindsets, the working professionality in our country, not to take advantage of the state, but to help the state. It takes time to change that mindset. And apart from the implementations, the new programs, beautiful program of this New Dawn government, I think we deadly need the mindset change in our people, not to take advantage, but to contribute. Of course, ubomba muiwala, alia muiwala in a good sense. So when you work, you are paid. That is correct. When you work, you are paid the right salary, but not to take advantage of the government.
Yeah, John, what do you think about what we're talking about?
It's a very interesting topic. I would just like to add on the digital aspect of the conversation. I still need to familiarize myself with the press conference that took place, but I think just to add my 2 cents, I've heard that we are engaging with Elon Musk to look at the infrastructure that we have in the country. But I think the onus is on the telecommunications industry as well to step up. And I would definitely like to see the government compel some of these telco companies to assist with infrastructure development in some of the areas that don't have the infrastructure to be able to connect digitally, because we're now living in the fourth industrial revolution. We cannot have communities being left behind just because we feel as though, they don't have anything to add. There's a lot of capacity that is in human capital. And if we can compel some of these companies to sort of like add into their CSIR programs to go and build infrastructure in some marginalized communities that don't have internet access, I think it would be better. Unlike relying on one company on another continent to come and solve our problems, let's look internally and see how we can come up with solutions that can assist our people.
Yeah, that's genius. That's genius. I like that, John. Yeah, there is a downside to rely on one company to help us with internet issues. Developing infrastructure around that is definitely fine. The final D on our discussion today is the dispersed production of meal, and the government prodded the citizens empowerment CEC, and they spoke about the floor price being raised a little bit high, and then he concluded with more money in people's pockets. So now, basically, what the president said was to do with dispersed production meal. He says that he wants to see a situation where there is no meal company in Lusaka that is getting maize from Kasama if they grow the maize in Kasama in sufficient measures, or from Kasempa. Uh, and then take it to a different city, and then once they have milled it, and then they go and sell the meal there. So he spoke about these inefficiencies in the economy, where we do conduct economic activity that doesn't make sense. And one of them is this transportation of maize from one city. It is the maize going to be turned into meal in another city and then being brought to that city. So his government have invited investments so that the millers, they can create new millers in each of the areas where bulks of maize are grown. So meal can be found in the place where the maize is actually cultivated. So what do you think about that, Father Pomba?
Yeah, it is correct. It's a good move. Um, you remind me of what happened to Chilubi Islands, Dr. Koson. So recently there has been a conversation, and I never knew that the people from Chilubi Island, for them to move from the island to the land, they took 4 hours on a canoe. 4 hours. So, with the question of the meal and having the possibility to prepare a meal locally, these people from Chilubi Island, they were saying that actually they have quite a big challenge. Maybe not even enough maize there because they might use cassava meal, and also no one has such capability, so to have a meal in those areas. But otherwise, it's quite a good idea. I don't know if the national service can come in, but here we are talking about government job, or probably just to encourage entrepreneurship, and so that the citizens can invest in these areas here. But to have a meal in an area in a province or in a town, I think it is a good idea. It
Yeah,
helps a lot.
I'm also looking at it from the perspective of creating new companies and new industries. That's where the jobs are. What do you think about that, Joanne? You are on mute, Joanne.
Or probably just
I think it's a no-brainer, and I did catch that audio where the president was talking to an MP in one of the provinces that was experiencing shortages in Milli Mill. It does not make sense to me why the local people have not taken opportunities to actually mill maize for their own area instead of expropriating that service to another province. I think this is definitely an opportunity for people to form companies, like you've said, Dr. Consoso. I think it's definitely something we can tap into. There's a lot of gaps that do exist within our communities. And I think we can start from here and start to look at some of the other areas where we can start to do things for ourselves and not solely rely on other individuals to solve our problems. It speaks back to what I was mentioning about looking internally on how to solve our own problems.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, thank you so much, John. Today we wind up our review of the president's press conference. And just before we do that, let me invite my partner in crime who has come late to the show just when we're about to close. Robbie, would you be happy?
Njito bulongo mujibe pwani and
Where have you gone? Again, he's disappeared. But anyway, um, uh, we reviewed the president's press conference and we talked about the different things. The president, in his view, he thinks that taking bad laws off the books improves the welfare of the people. So they took out the defamation of the president, that national heroes are not those who insult the president, but those who serve the nation. Yeah, and then the death penalty was also removed from the books, so that if you commit a capital offense, you are going to be able to live the rest of your life paying the price in the jails. And then the president spoke about the debt resolution, that he inherited a government that was debt ridden and failing to service the debts. And they have been working frantically since they got in there, trying to resolve the debt with the different players where the previous government borrowed from. Yeah. And then we talked about the delivery unit under the president's supervision for people directly working with the president to go and supervise the activities going on. We spoke about, we determined that the president wants diplomacy, but it's the diplomacy that is focused on the beneficial economic relationships and realized investments. Then we talked about the direct investments from abroad. The president has given us a blueprint that they have secured many pledges. Now their job is to realize those investments. That is going to help rebuild the economy. The president also spoke about, in our estimation, the distortion of the cost of living by imported inflation from prices for commodities that are used in the global economy, the impact of the damn war that is going on in Ukraine and Russia, the war that the world doesn't need, and the war that the country that started it is not going to benefit anything from. So, but it has had an impact on the global economy, and that is resulted in the distortion of the cost of living. And that is part of what the president characterized as imported inflation. Then we detected, or we determined, that the NDG's approach is to do direct interventions into the family budget support. We spoke about the role of education on the family budget, free education on the family budget, student bursaries, and the restored meal allowances for university and college students in government institutions. We spoke about that though the government has increased the allocation of resources to the Ministry of Health, they are still struggling with pilferage of medicines and stuff in their Ministry of Health. It's a law enforcement issue. Again, the government should just raise their game and nip that in the bud. And then we talk about digital platforms. There is broadband internet access coming to the whole country. And that is what the president and his people are working on. Then the president also told us that the distribution of agriculture inputs this year is going to be on time. We are going to take a look at that. And one of the things that they've done is the local production of fertilizer. And then finally, we looked at the dispersed production of mealie meal. So ifigayo fyakugayo vunga ukuva across the country. So before we close the show, my friends, I want each one of you to give your closing remarks. The latecomers always eat bones. Rob, you are the one who's going to go first in the closing remarks for the show because we are done.
Thank you so much, Professor Kasonso.
Robbie,
You know,
have you seen the
internet,
Lozi here? Have you seen the Lozi girl here? Joanna Mubiana.
Musizana Obunde, Muchwani. Musizana Obunde, our only wife. Whether tatwali piring insalamu na tulipira iwoli mukashwesu. So it depends who you pick. It depends who you pick on. Whether vakasonso na ngoni nevu.
Oh my goodness.
She's for both.
Thank natotera sana. But Father Oscar Mwanza, shani mkwai.
Kuku mkwai.
Inena papa ine internet na issue pass through out the program. I've been trying to come in. What?
We have
na
seen.
Issue pa. I'm only thinking that maybe tabade mputula because of what my Father Oscar might know. But nevertheless, I've been following on I've been watching on the other side while trying to log in. Professor Kasonso, I think our Father Oscar and our only wife from Barose land, we appreciate your contributions, and they have been heard by a lot of people, and we appreciate them the way you put them. And of course, we know that the president means well for this country. He really does mean well. The only thing is that each time he wants to work well is misinterpreted, because each time he wants to have people, buy into his dream or vision, you'll find that other people are misinterpreting him to say that no, maybe he turns out to be the one who is lecturing them. I know what Father Oscar mentioned yesterday. He said to say we are an immature nation and a mature country. So Mkwai, when we are saying that an immature nation and a mature country, it means that Nabamova minister, by the way, immature. But I want to be very honest. I don't mean to say I'm pointing at one or two people there. It's Zambian to be immature in this case. It's a it's a set of Zambians that are immature. There's no subset there. So even me, I'm immature. So let me learn to be mature. Because the president says petty issues become big issues in Zambia. For example, you talked about death penalty. You talked about the Ds, the Ds that we've talked about. All these things have been re-emphasized and brought in by the professor who observed these issues and derived them to this platform because of our immaturity as a country, Zambia. Other countries are matured and we are still, immature. So we need to really up the game in terms of understanding governance and the way it should be, especially from the previous press briefing that the president talked about. Yeah. So,
Thank you.
Dr. Kasonso, this is great. I appreciate what you've done, and this is great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it so much.
Yeah, thank you, Robbie, for that generous comment, particularly for everybody on the show today and for the president. John, what are your closing remarks before we get out of here?
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I think my takeaway is, and my advice to everybody in Zambia is just to have an open mind and a global thinking approach to how we can solve our problems. We are not in a silo. We do have ways and means to learn from other mature and developed countries. So let us take that opportunity to learn from others who've done it and they've done it well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Excellent. Excellent contribution there, Joanne. Father, your closing remarks.
Yeah, it's my just an encouragement. I think we have to encourage our people. We define in our political alignment or political sympathy. We might define that. At the moment, the situation that we are experiencing in our country, we need the contribution of each and every citizen. Each and every citizen. We need the
Excellent.
opposition. We need the opposition to do the serious checks and balances.
Not that
Because
Vareshe Timbalala.
I personally, I wouldn't like to go to a one-party participatory system. I wouldn't like, even if we would find that probably our president has no equal, has no one who can maybe be at the same level of his capacity. I wouldn't like to go to that situation myself. So I would like to enrich our democracy in Zambia, but we need also all the opposition parties to to do their job, because we need them to do the serious checks and balances. And then to the government, of course, it's quite a big challenge. But I think also the government, Dr. Kasonso, how I would love the government maybe to just come and say, well, there are a lot of problems. You gentlemen, we need to be together. We are going to come out from all these difficulties together. The propaganda is not going to help us. Yeah. So the president has a very, very big challenge. Yeah. Very big challenge.
Yeah.
Huge one. Huge one.
Father, thank you, Father. There was a lot of political red meat, which we are not referring to here or part of this educational summary, where the president challenged the opposition for alternatives to their policies and practices. Yeah, I think that if the government puts 25 million kwacha in a constituency, the work of the opposition is to ensure that money has really arrived there and that money has been used by the people. But we have this situation where opposition has been left to mad people. Vice versa, social media here on Bonano TV, we are very, very objective, but we are not balanced. We are biased, and we are biased towards what we think is good for the country. And right now, what is good for the country is what the president and his people are doing. We cannot, in opposition, I think we need to come and give a lecture to the opposition. The president disclosed yesterday that the job that he would like to do after he leaves politics is actually mine. He would like
looking after God.
No. He would like to be a professor when he retires. Yeah. So, but yeah, but anyway, so the opposition that opposition doesn't mean speaking against everything.
Yeah.
Because what happens by opposition, load shedding is by opposition by mina pachulu kwamba kula tukoteko pali load shedding. Ya load shedding yako tawale totela.
Yes.
Nangu nibamutashakari kuitobo. Liliaso bakavika fe kuitobo. No, that's not opposition. That's noise. Iyobunga bwambo kushota mchalo because bale fobola bale mkwingisho bunga muzairi kwa bula permission ya government. Bailishanya ba opposition yao basova ya problem batalala fe kwatu fenkubala te opposition tulefwa yeyo opposition tulefwa ya kweba ati ngava ubunga kule yangu waima ba opposition baiminya pachintu webuteko nabakapokola lekeni ukupepeka tu opposition notule tukanensere pa social media ke kateni bakabwala pa border betwalo.
Yes.
That is what we need from opposition.
Excellent.
The president violator at your trefire dispersed production of mini meal using CEC. But opposition violator organized in those cities, they bid for citizens empowerment funds to create a figayo. Opposition has to be part of building the nation.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Opposition,
this is what I was talking about, immaturity. That's what I meant.
Opposition, opposition
Yeah.
community house na state house ala lyo bwankoko nokwina mule mwefiale muneko waye mbaka teka nofana masuti asoma ale bombe nchito yakwe his conscience is clear.
That's right.
So
That's right. That's right.
We endeavor to be biased, but only towards what is good. Na ifo bentu alikuwa tensambu shakuta speak against ubuteko weso. But na ifo bentu alikuwa tensambu shakubati if to ingachita pali problem ni fifi nefi HT. So my friends, thank you for showing up today. And we were supposed to have one-on-one with Dr. Kasonso, but we didn't finish this show. And then we have finished it. We've summarized the 12 Ds, our main takeaways from the president. Please join us next time. And we will be coming here with my friends to discuss what is going on back home, what is going on in our world, and how our Zambia can become a better place for everybody who likes this country. By opposition, they should love the country more than they hate HH. But they love the country more than they hate HH. Otherwise, kwala bafyokula bakaka na kumute kota bakengiremo. Kwishina ya kwata ya mwana.
Professor Kasonso. Professor Kasonso.
Mkwata.
Mulalufya nyeri ngirini one-on-one. Mufiro kulando kwewati. I think Bemba, I'm trying to be good at Bemba. Mulingiro kutiro kwewati. Robizi one-on-one with Dr. Kasonso.
Oh, yeah.
Mulingiro kulampo kulanda. Pantini program yanjira.
Yeah, okay, program ya kwa
Kamitanja imwepa program yanjira. Kaleta po father.
Bandekere ko mambo mwani. Bandekere ko mambo. Could not be hosted.
I'll bring my wife, the Lozi wife, and say one-on-one with him, my wife from Baroseland.
That is a consummate journalist, and when she comes over here, we will take over the whole of Baroland and Kaondeland and Bembaland, and in fact, we'll even go a step further. We'll take over Tanzania and even the United States.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Joanne, for appearing, and thank you, Venamiji, Varobi, and Father. Thank you for appearing on this show. We will come back at the same time. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night.